Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today, I've got a comparison. I already finished my for sale video, so I can move on with life now and do the video that I was really excited about doing today. Today, I would like to compare the SOG Aegis to the Kershaw Blur. Both of these are very good, very lightweight, very EDC capable knives. They're very close in size and weight, and they're very close in price point. In fact, on Blade HQ, both of these knives are priced to the dollar, $65 and change. Okay, now if you go on eBay, you'll find a little more variation. Aegis you can find all the way from around high 30, like 30, 37, 30, let's say $35 to $45 you can find Aegis's for, and the Blur, again, same deal. The average price on eBay in Canadian dollars is about 60 bucks, maybe 65. That means you're, high 40s in American dollars, okay? So price point is very, very close. That means if you're looking at both of these knives, price isn't going to do it for you. You've got to decide based on other factors. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, let's start off with size and weight, since that's what I normally start off with in my reviews. The Kershaw is 7 3/4 inches. It has a 3 3/8 inch blade, and it weighs in at 3.9 ounces, okay? The SOG, on the other hand, is 8 1/4 inches, has a full 3.5 inch blade, but listen to this, only weighs 3.1 ounces. So weight on this, in terms of, especially when you think of what you're getting for size and blade length, the weight is incredible on the SOG Aegis, all right? So that's how size and weight break down. Obviously the solid aluminum handle is making a big difference in terms of the weight on this, but you're getting half an inch more knife for more than half an ounce less weight with the Aegis. So pretty impressive in terms of size and weight on the Aegis. Let's move on. There's that one. I think we've got to give size and weight to the Aegis, especially for me, because I prefer a larger knife. So now you're getting a larger knife for less weight. The Blur is a great blade, and it's just under my magic number of 3.5 inches. Obviously I don't care, I have two, and in fact I've thought about buying more. The Blur is like somehow addictive. If you buy one, you can't help it, you want to buy another one. Now let's move on to the blade. This time we'll start with the Kershaw. The blade on this is 3 3/8 inches of 14C28N. Blade steel. It is a recurve blade with a hollow grind. Very, very capable blade. I did a bunch of cutting with this, and when I was cutting with this, I was also using my Para 2 and what other knife did I have that day? Oh, I know, the Zero Tolerance 0200. And this blade actually performed better than the 02, oh, and the Klecker Cordovan. So this blade performed better than the 0200, better than the Cordovan. It didn't quite reach the Para 2 in S30V, but this 14C28N is very, very good steel. And sometimes I think YouTubers, just because they don't, I got a bunch of knives and used them all together with this just to test the feel of this knife and the performance of it. It held an edge like crazy, okay? So very easy to sharpen, holds an edge really, really well. And so this blade and this blade steel is exceptionally good. To the point that if, I would be tempted to buy a knife just because it had 14C28N blade steel. As far as the budget steels go, I think this is one of the best. Now, after saying all that, we bring out the Aegis, which has a full flat ground blade, very fine tip, very good edge geometry. Both of these are excellent slicers, by the way. This knife is in AUS 8, and it's SOG's AUS 8, okay? And I say that because SOG does an exceptional job finishing their AUS 8 in terms of heat treatment and how it comes out. I don't know, the Rockwell hardness is probably labeled around 58 to 60, but it is fantastic. I have a bunch of, all of my SOGs are in AUS 8, and their edge holding capability is very, very good. Now, add to good edge holding capability the fact that this has a very fine, this is ground to a very fine, thin profile behind the cutting edge, and you have an exceptional blade. So, you know, between these two knives, you know, you guys know I love recurves, some people don't, and so that may be the deciding factor right there for you. But both of these slice really well, both of these really excel at everyday carry tasks. This one has a finer tip. Now that's good and bad. Any kind of penetrating cut, you're opening clamshell packaging, you know, any kind of work you're doing with the tip of the blade, this is very sharp, very fine. Now, the downside of that is it's a little prone to breaking, and I have broken the tip-off knives before. It can and does happen. This knife you're less likely to break. This knife is a little finer and maybe a little sharper at that tip. Not really sharper in terms of how much you can sharpen it, but in terms of how much steel you're dealing with, this is much finer, okay? So that's how these two blades compare. I'm not going to comment on sharpening because I have no problem sharpening either one of these. Both take an extremely sharp edge fairly easily and hold it very well, certainly as well as you could ever need for an EDC blade. So I got to call the blades a tie. Now let's talk about lockup and deployment. Both of these have some minor issues, okay? The Blur, you know, you've probably seen the videos. I think Crockett20 and Late Boy Scout both have a video of the lock failing on their Kershaw Blur. Now, on the other hand, you can watch any number of YouTube videos about up and down blade play in the SOG Aegis. Seems like they all have up and down blade play. So both locks have potential issues. Now, I can tell you lockup on both of these is very good. Because of those other videos, I've gone overboard testing this knife and my S30V Blur to see if I could get them to fail, and they are solid as a rock, okay? Now, no blade play at all in this knife. However, this one does have some blade play, and you guys know that, and you know it drives me completely insane. This is just a liner lock, and liner lock is very good and very reliable. This, I think the arc lock is what they call it. It's not a real arc lock, okay? If you want a real arc lock, you find one in like the SOG Tomcat, the SOG Vulcan. This is a sorry imitation of an arc lock, and it's not as good. I really think SOG needs to go back to the drawing board, scrap this lock completely, or here's the best thing, if they would just put a real arc lock in all of these budget SOGs, the Flash, the Tomcat, the Flash, the Aegis, and there's another one I just can't think of right now, I'm sorry, but it's a larger one with a clip point and it has the little cutter in the back. Come on, Kevin. Anyway, I'm not going to come up with it. Trident, there we go, I did come up with it. SOG Trident, they all have this cheap imitation arc lock and it kind of sucks. Okay, so lock definitely has to go to the Blur. However, deployment is a bit of a debate. The Aegis is faster, the Blur has speed safe. I really like speed safe. You all know it's my favorite one because there's no tension on the blade through all this range of motion till you get to here, then the torsion bar kicks in. The Aegis, it's under tension immediately. See that? So the spring pushes it all the way open. Now because of that, it's a little faster, but it's also a little more annoying to close one-handed. So you're going to have to decide which you prefer on that one. For my personal mileage, I like the speed safe, but maybe you don't mind not having speed safe, okay? So those ones are kind of a tie, a little bit up to personal preference, depending on what you want and what you like. Now, let's move on to the handles. Both of these handles are very comfortable, totally usable, and I don't have any major complaints about either one. But when you compare the two, the Aegis is larger and grippier, okay? So better retention on the Aegis, no question, and better comfort because it's a little longer. Notice if I hold the Blur, I do have to choke up a little bit, so my thumb is up here on the blade. If I put my thumb back here where the jimping is, I have to have my pinky barely gets on the knife at all, and a good portion of my hand is behind the pommel, okay? On the Aegis, on the other hand, I can take a good full-handed grip and have no problems. This, if I want a good full four-finger grip, I have to move up and put one finger on the back of the blade or use more of a this kind of a fist grip. I can't think of the right term for it right now. I don't know why. Anyway, so the handle, the comfort goes to the Aegis, the grippiness goes to the Aegis. The size, though, goes to the Blur. The Blur has a thinner handle, and so it's a little more comfortable in pocket than the Aegis, although the Aegis is super light. Lastly, let's talk about the pocket clip. You guys, you know, I've picked on SOG enough. Let's give credit where credit is due. SOG does an awesome job with their pocket clips. They're very deep carry, and very comfortable in and out of pocket. This pocket clip, although it's okay, totally functional, often you can have some issues getting your pants all the way in here, and when it is in, it's definitely not as deep a carry as the Aegis. By the way, I have no problem getting either one of these in and out of my pocket. This one though, a lot of times in order to get my pants all the way up to the top of the clip here, I have to grab with the other hand. The Aegis is a little more, bam, right into the pocket, okay? So the clip definitely, the Aegis is superior, and SOG in general does a very good job with their pocket clips, okay? So there you go. I think that's the last thing. Let me look at my notes really quick. That's the last thing I want to talk about. Now, overall impressions, okay? At $65, I feel like you're doing okay on the Blur. I feel like you've overpaid for the Aegis. That's somewhat subjective, but you're getting what I think is a crappy lock on the Aegis, and you're getting a handle that is not confidence inspiring, okay? If I really squeeze on this, I can feel it just flexing right now in my hand. Not at all so with the Blur. The Blur, just when you have this in hand, you go, this is a strong, capable, well put together blade. With the Aegis, you go, gee, I don't want to break it. Okay, I'm just being honest. That's how these two compare. If you can find an Aegis, I paid $38 plus shipping for this, and I feel like, hey, that was a good deal, and for a $38 knife, I have no complaints. If I had paid $68, $65, I would be really unhappy. I feel like there's no excuse for a $65 knife having any blade play of any kind, especially when $20 knives can do it. Why can't a $65 knife? Okay, so that's how these two play out. Both of these, I will say, there's a lot of variation in price. So if you're looking for one, shop around. Check Amazon, check eBay, check blade forums, check all the major retailers, because likely you'll find the knife you want at a better price than your first stop, okay? So just be a really discerning shopper if you're looking for either one of these. Both great blades. I think overall the winner for me has got to be the Blur. Maybe you don't mind a little bit of blade play and the Aegis takes it for you, but the blade play really does it for me. I'm not a fan of this lock, and because a lock is such an integral part of a folding knife, I think it just puts it a little lower than the Blur. Again, great knives both, but for this video and for my mileage, the Blur takes the win over the Aegis. Talk to you soon, YouTube. And my video won't stop.